Hi guys, it's Karen with Love Your Land, and I wanted to bring you out here and show you something that I'm doing with my tomatoes. I do every year, and it's something that a couple of things that will really help your tomatoes prevent disease, keep the circulation good, and another little trick. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bottom pruning this plant. This is one I transplanted in my last video, and it's doing fantastic. It's healthy, it's happy, it's obviously responding to the trifecta I gave it very well. There's lots of new growth, not only at the top, but down at the bottom there's a bunch of new side shoots, which may be coming off because that's part of what I'm going to be doing right now. But we're going to be bottom pruning. You know, when everything was still inside in the winter and early spring, I talked about top pruning, and that was to get, you know, to get your plants to bush out, and obviously that's already happened here. So we don't want to cut the tops of our tomatoes once they're outside like this. So the first thing I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to bottom prune. I'm going to take off the lower leaves of this plant. You know, when I first planted them out here, I took off the lower leaves and stems, but that was to bury it as far down as I could. Now I wanted it to grow up a bit, this main stem. Well, there's 4, right? But I wanted these main stems to grow up so that the plant will be taller, and I wanted to obviously also give it a chance to acclimate, to get over the transplant shock. But I'm going to be pruning off these lower leaves because, number one, there's a lot of lower leaf damage from flea beetles. I can't see that. Maybe I'll bring this up close. There's flea beetle damage, and then there's also these lower leaves. When your plants start to need to be fed again, you'll notice that the lower leaves turn yellow first, where the top keeps growing. And so these lower leaves, where they're either yellowed, nutrient deprived, or there's damage in some way, I want those off of there, because the plant, you know, may be feeling heroic and want to try and fix those stems and leaves, and I really don't want it to waste its energy. I want it to grow and flower and produce. So this is the damage I'm talking about. You can see that? I don't think you can. Maybe. So I'm going to take that off. So it's a little tricky business to get down low, I know, but it's important. The other reason that I'm doing this is because when you have, when it rains, especially if it rains heavily in your area, or on any particular day, if you come out and look, either while it's raining or after, the water is literally pounding down on that soil and splashing it all up onto your plant. And you know, diseases like blight, that's where they live, is in the soil. So you don't want that splashing up onto your plant. Also, if a leaf, boy, that is just like a piece of Swiss cheese. If a leaf is covered in mud, you know, the leaves are primarily where the plant breathes from. So if it's covered in mud, it's sort of being suffocated. So you don't want your leaves to get soil splash. So I'm going to do this now, and then again, as the plant gets taller. The goal in my mind is to keep the lower, say 10 to 12 inches free of stems. And some just hang down like that, they grow pointing down, clip them off. Or if they just droop down, you want to get those off there. Like this actually starts, this one here starts about here, but it's going all the way down to here. I don't want that. So that's coming off. And you just go around. I see some suckers. I'm going to go ahead and cut those bottom ones off because I don't want suckers, especially suckers tend to grow down when they're on the lower ones like that. I don't want that. Again, you can use your clippers or your nails, whatever you want to do, but just make sure you don't rip your stems. Just go through. At first it's kind of hard to see what you're doing because there's so much in there, but as you go it gets easier and easier. So don't get discouraged. I say that because as the season goes on and these plants get like hedges, it's very daunting to me to start doing this because I can't see where anything starts and where it begins. But you just start clipping, and you know, stem by stem, it starts to make sense. is also I can show you up close on some of these others. Today's 2 weeks since I fed them again with Trifecta. You know, I fed them inside in like, what March or something, whenever I planted them up. And they did fantastic. You guys saw the pictures. They were like monster plants. But then it took so long for me to plant them out, and I didn't want to feed them again while they were still inside, because I wanted to feed them when they went in the ground. I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense. But anyway, I waited, and they, because it took so long to get them planted out because of the weather, they were just really sad looking. I was like, great. I'm doing this YouTube thing and my plants look like crap, but you know, stuff happens. But like I said in the video before, I really wasn't too worried about it because I knew Trifecta would kick in. It was just a little nail biting waiting for that to happen. So you want it, not only the lower stems, but you also want to get anything that's sort of pointing inward. Not everything, it's not a tree, so you don't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be a total open canopy in there, but you want to allow for as much sunlight, and I mean not sunlight, but yeah, sun, but airflow as possible. But you also don't want to remove too many leaves, because the leaves, photosynthesis primarily occurs in the leaves. A little bit in the stems, not so much, but you want to have as many leaves as possible while still maintaining a healthy plant. So, easy enough. Like I said, just go through bit by bit. I'm going to cut off, again, anything that has damage, because that's going to slow the plant down, because it's going to try and fix that. And I'm going to cut off anything that is obviously pointing inward, anything that is obviously pointing down, and definitely anything that is touching the soil. I don't even know where that guy starts. Let's go over here. There we go. I have a little more damage over here. I'm going to remove some of this stuff, even though it's not pointing down, but it's damaged. So I didn't remove all of it at first because there was still some leaf surface, and you know, photosynthesis can occur on this leaf, even if it's a bit damaged. But now I have so much more new growth, thanks to Trifecta, that I don't need those ones that are damaged. Okay, that looks pretty good. I don't want to keep you guys too long on this, but you're getting the point. I'll come back through here after I'm done with this video and see if there's anything else I want to prune off. But you see how I've opened this up down here quite a bit, and get you off there. And there you have it. So just to recap, what I did here is I removed anything that was, any stems and leaves that were struggling, because I don't want the plant to focus on that. I removed anything that is touching the ground or pointing towards the ground, because I have drip lines, so it's not that when I water things splash up, but that may be also true in your case. But when it rains, it just pours and it makes a big mess of everything. I mean, if it rains, you come back out, you can see all your bottom leaves are probably going to be soaked, splashed with mud, and that is bad. So the last thing, I should have weeded before I started this. The last thing I will do here, as sort of a preventative measure, and again keeping with the goal of avoiding soil splash, is mulch. So I got this. This is certified weed-free straw, and I would highly recommend, if you're able to get your hands on weed-free, to do that, because, well, obviously you know why, but this is certified weed-free. It's actually what's required by the Rocky Mountain National Forest. If you bring livestock, horses or whatever, up to the mountains, you are not allowed to bring anything but certified weed-free. So if it's good enough for airplane, if it's good enough for the Rocky Mountain National Forest, it's good enough for me. So I'm not gonna think you guys watch me do this in the whole bit, but I want to give you just a sense of it. So look at what happens here. If it were to rain right now, it's going to rain, it's going to pat, but the dirt's not going to turn into mud and splash back up onto my plants. So this is a really good preventative for soil-borne diseases getting to the bottoms of your plant. The other thing it does, as you may know, is it keeps the soil cooler, it keeps the moisture level in the soil, and it's not going to keep all the weeds out, I guarantee you, especially this bed I know is just filled with bindweed, that's what I just pulled out. But it's going to reduce the weeds considerably. So it's at least going to give me a chance to keep up on them, as opposed to not. So that's what I'd recommend. Trim off your lower leaves that are damaged, so the plant doesn't have to struggle to make them healthy again. Also trim off the bottom leaves to allow for more airflow for your plants, because you don't want this humid little environment in there. That's just a recipe for disaster. And then mulch with I'm using straw, and we'll talk about at the end of the season what I'm doing with the straw, because I'm not going to leave it in here. I'm not going to mix it in. You don't want to do that. But then mulch, and that will help prevent soil splash and keep your plants, keep the soil cooler, keep the soil moisture level in, and probably give you more tomatoes. So that's the goal. Anyway, that's it. I obviously have a lot more plants to do this to, and a lot more straw to put down. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye. I almost forgot this part. I told you guys I'd show you some of the effects of Trifecta. So you see in this plant, got a lot of flea beetle damage. The leaves are not very dark green. They're ish, sort of yellowish green. Some of them are really yellow. But as you move up the plant, look at how green and lush this thing is. And it was not like this when I transplanted it. And there are flowers. Those were not there when I transplanted it, for sure. So overall, oopsie, sorry. Overall, this plant looks really good now, as you can see. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to this plant that I just did to that one way down there. I'm gonna do it to all of these plants, like that guy. Even that one, you can see. Can I do this? Yes. Down at the bottom, it's all yellow and doesn't look too good. That's all gonna come off. Everything up top is dark green and thriving. So once all of this stuff comes off and I mulch, all of these plants are going to be just fine. So that's my little testament to Trifecta. I mean, is that beautiful or what? All right, you guys, that's it. Talk to you later.